Get your smartphone, take your tablets, and tune into Fylde Coast Radio. You're listening to Lindsay Knotts at Fylde Coast Radio.
Yes, you are indeed. I'm here with you till 12 noon today. Time is now 10:53 and I am joined, as promised earlier, in the studio today by my special guest. It's PC Matthew Scott, and he's on my sheet of paper as Early Action Wire Area. Hello to you, Matthew. How are you diddling this fine morning?
I'm very well, thank you, Lindsay.
Very, very good. You believe that we've met before. You do look very familiar. I just didn't put a face to the name. About 12 years ago?
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I've been in the police just over 10 years now. I'm a police officer, I have. And in a former life, you too were a police officer.
Yes.
And you had a role as a volunteer coordinator. And before I joined, I thought I'd see what it was all about, and I volunteered with you.
Oh dear, didn't put you off then.
Well, you must have done something right, because here I am 12 years later.
Yeah, oh well, that's good. So I've got here down that you're at Wire Area Early Action. So where are you actually based, and what area do you cover?
Well, I'm based at Fleetwood Police Station at the moment, and we actually cover the whole of Wire area, and we also cover Fylde as well. So St Anne's, Lytham, Kirkham, all down that way.
What about the bit in the middle? Is that somebody else?
Yeah, no. The way it's structured, somebody else covers Blackpool. I've worked in Blackpool in the past, but we don't cover that at the moment.
So that must be quite tricky then, getting from one to the other, especially with these blinking roadworks.
Yeah. It's not without its challenges, but we manage.
Do you know, morning it took me. Well, you've got Squires Gate Bridge shut, haven't you? You've got Arrowside Bridge shut. Then you've got your temporary traffic lights on Clifton Drive North, and then you get to the promenade, and that's shut between Central Pier and Talbot Road. It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't know what's going on. They seem to be doing everything all at once.
It's all about improving the town centre.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll be better for it in the long run.
I'm sure we will, but I feel sorry for the shopkeepers in the run-up to Christmas, because these are going on till the 22nd of December.
Really?
Yeah, I just think they'd have been better doing it maybe January, February, but that's the council for you. We can't comment on it. They just do it as and when. So hey ho. So you're working out of Wire, which covers Fleetwood and all that area. Is it over Wire as well?
Yeah, Thornton, Cleveland's, Polton, all around that area.
And St Anne's, Lytham. Do you cover Kirkham as well?
Yes, we do.
Wow,
we do indeed.
Wow. So early action. Tell us a little bit about what does that actually mean.
Well, I suppose the clue's in the title. It's early action, and the purpose from the police point of view is to reduce demand on the front line. You have various people or families who, for a variety of reasons, seem to be a drain on police resources. They call the police time and time again. This may be down to mental health problems, drug and alcohol dependency, vulnerability, social isolation. There can be a variety of factors. So our job is to identify these people and then work with them and try and find out the root cause as to why they're calling the police, and eliminate it or help them improve their life so they don't need to rely on the police or indeed other emergency services.
So how do you identify these people? Is it just through volume of calls, or do they get referred to you, or how do you find out about them?
Yeah, well, you've hit the nail on the head. Generally it's volume of calls. They'll be identified by response officers who will then refer them into us.
Right.
But there are other methods as well. I'm currently spearheading an initiative regarding scams and frauds. There are a lot. It's an increasing problem in this country, and there's literally billions of pounds is taken out of our economy every year by scams, by people perpetrating scams and frauds. So what I've been doing is going into banks in the Wire and the Fylde area, and just basically advising people on how these scams work so that they don't become victims of them themselves. It can be things like cold callers, people saying that you're owed money by the Inland Revenue Service.
Yes, I've had that one.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, there we go. There's one going round where somebody from a call centre phones up and says that there's a problem. They work for BT, there's a problem with your laptop. They get you to do a few things on there. Next thing, they've got remote access and all your bank details. There's a variety of these things, so it's just cluing people up as to what they are and how to avoid them. But the other side of it as well, you get a lot of rogue traders. So what I've been doing is going into banks, and a lot of the banks have been very helpful with this, because they're quite good at identifying who their vulnerable customers might be. for example, there could be somebody who's elderly who suddenly starts drawing out hundreds or thousands of pounds out of the account, and it could be, we've had one recently from it was referred into us from a bank in St Anne's, and this poor old lady, she suddenly started drawing out thousands of pounds, and she'd been paying some traders to do work around the house, but they've had £9,000 out of her. They charged her £500 just to cut a few leaves off a tree, and said they do work which they didn't do. So we're trying to find out what offences we've got there, if there's anything we can do, and Trading Standards have been very good with us as well. We've been working with them, and they've been helping out a lot.
That's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? It's good that the banks are working with you, actually. That's a good... I like the word spearheading as well.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
Did you write that one down?
I didn't. It came to me out of the blue. I don't know, yeah.
Well, yeah, like you said about the Inland Revenue, I had an email off them last week, actually. Did you know the Inland Revenue owe me £5,000?
Do they really?
They do, yeah. And all I have to do is log on to this website and give them my banking details.
Right.
Sort code,
right.
Account number, name on the account, you know.
Yeah, well, this is it. They've got a variety of ways that they try and get your bank details out of you, and then obviously they'll pretend to be you and they'll draw the money out of your account. But one of the messages we want to get out is that if anybody writes a letter to you or phones you claiming to be the Inland Revenue Service, your bank, British Telecom, whoever it may be, don't take it at face value. I would suggest you get the details of this person, the name, reference number, department they work for, and so on, and then find out what the official number is on the internet or telephone directory, and call back and do it that way. So that way you know you're speaking to who they claim to be. Yeah,
I guess the most vulnerable in this are the elderly and people who are maybe living on their own and they've got no one to run it by.
Yeah, indeed. That's one of the problems, social isolation. You could have somebody elderly may not have spoken to somebody for a week or more, and they're just glad of the company. These fraudsters are expert in gaining people's confidence, finding common ground, and acting like the friend of the person, and before you know it, they've dropped the guard down and they're handing over the bank details.
I've got one here that was sent to me by Action Fraud, which is in the know, which you can tell us about in a minute because you'll be in the know. It says the National Fraud Intelligence Bureau has identified a number of reports where job seekers are being targeted by fraudsters trying to obtain personal and banking details or requesting money to secure accommodation. Individuals registered with job-seeking websites or searching for jobs on the Student Room website are being contacted by bogus recruitment companies' businesses asking them to complete application interview forms which request personal details and banking details as well as copy of identity documents. That's horrendous.
Yeah, I've not heard of that one actually. That's, yeah,
well, it came out this morning actually on In the Know. So
right, yeah. Well, I didn't have a chance to read my emails.
No.
I was preparing for a radio interview that I had.
Were you?
I was, yeah.
You were preparing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, believe it or not.
Well, you've done more than I have, because I just tip up and wing it all for the best.
Well, you're doing very well.
Thank you. So, yes, there's loads of these things. Tell us about In the Know. I mean, I know how to get on it, but just tell our listeners how they can get signed up to find out this sort of information. I believe it's through the Lancashire Constabulary website, and you just log on.
Yeah, I mean, it will talk you through it if you go on the website, but it's very useful for things such as you said there.
Yeah.
It can tell you crimes which are happening in your area, give you advice on how to avoid them, scams as this one that you've just pointed out. So I would suggest it. But yeah, if you just go onto Lancashire Constabulary website, you'll find a link there and it'll explain how to do it.
Yeah, great. I know it is useful because I get stuff through every week warning me about stuff. I mean, luckily I'm a little bit savvy about it. Anybody who wants my bank details, well, actually they can have them because it's empty. If they want to put some money in, great. But good luck with trying to get any money out of it. That's what I say. Anyway, right, Matthew, what we'll do is we'll play a quick tune and then we'll get back to you and have another little chat about early action. The song I'm going to play is a song I play for all my police that guests come in, showing support for you and what you do. It's Holly Cahill with You Still Put the Uniform On.
People will talk, though they don't understand. Situations you're in can get so out of hand. They'll state their lies as if they are fact. Once the damage is done, you can't take it back. You do your best to protect and serve, but are treated in ways that you don't deserve. They call your names and spit in your face, but if you weren't there, who would take your place? Cause you spend your life in danger, could take a bullet for a stranger. Always have to be brave and tough, though it'll never be enough. And when they're critical of you, they should walk a mile in your shoes. The days are hard, the nights are long, but you still put the uniform on. You come home from work and kiss your kids on the head. Just monsters from the streets and out from under their beds. What they don't understand is that you're human too, just trying to survive, got a family counting on you. You do your best to protect and serve, but are treated in ways that you don't deserve. They call your names and spit in your face, but if you weren't there, who would take your place? Who would take your place? Cause you spend your life in danger, could take a bullet for a stranger. Always have to be brave and tough, though it'll never be enough. And when they're critical of you, they should walk a mile in your shoes. The days are hard, the nights are long, but you still put the uniform on. Too many gone, too many lost. Is it all worth it? What is the cost? Yeah. Mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, got so much to lose. Why do you bother? But you always choose to spend your life in danger. Take a bullet for a stranger. Cause you spend your life in danger, could take a bullet for a stranger. Always have to be brave and tough, though it'll never be enough. And when they're critical of you, they should walk a mile in your shoes. The days are hard, the nights are long, but you still put the uniform on. You still put the uniform on. You still put the uniform on. You still put the uniform on.
Broadcasting to the northwest and beyond. Fylde Coast Radio. Sponsored by Blackpool Music Academy. Fylde Coast Radio.
Yes, you're listening to Fylde Coast Radio. It's 6 minutes past 11, and I'm back with my guest, PC Matthew Scott, who is based at the Wyre area, but also covers the Fylde area on Early Action. So, Matthew, is it Matthew? Do you prefer Matt?
I really don't mind, as you wish.
It's like a Sunday name, isn't it, Matthew?
Yes, I guess so.
Does it feel like you're in trouble when I say it?
I won't go that far.
Now then, Matthew. Let's go back to Early Action. So, I'll give you an example. Lindsay Nottingham continually rings the police. I'm moaning about my neighbours. Then I've got a problem with kids playing football in the street. Then I can hear noises coming from next door which may be non-existent. Then I'm constantly ringing ambulance service because I've got a twitch in my finger. I'm ringing social services because I want Meals on Wheels, etc, etc. And I'm ringing all these different people up. How would that fall into your area of work, and what would happen?
That's example isn't a million miles away to the things we deal with quite regularly, actually, Lindsay.
It's not me that phones in, by the way. I just wanted to clarify that. It's not me.
So what we'd do is we'd obviously go and we'd speak to the person who's calling the police. We'd try and establish what the issues are. We'd ask them if they're working with any other agencies, that they may have mental health problems, they may be working with a doctor. We may suspect they've got health issues, so obviously try and refer them to be assessed for that. They're possibly working with social care. Again, we can refer them if they're not. They could live in rented accommodation. There may be a housing agency they're under, or the neighbours may be with the housing agency, so we'd work with them as well. We actually hold meetings once a month at the council chambers in Poulton, and also there's an equivalent in Fylde, there's an equivalent in Blackpool. And we discuss all these kind of issues that have various agencies involved in them and work out the best way forward at dealing with them. As I mentioned before, the key is it's getting to the root cause of the problem. It's finding out why this person's calling the police. It could be as simple as there's an undiagnosed mental health issue that they need medicating for. You could get that sorted, encourage them to go to the doctors, and then it's solved. It could be a neighbour dispute that's causing their anxiety, which they call, if you're lucky enough never to have any issues with your neighbours, this can cause more stress than you might imagine.
Yeah.
Mediation with the neighbours, or maybe signing up some kind of contract with the help of the housing organisation if they're under one. This can sort the problem out. There's various different ways. It's use your initiative as well. There might be things that you can think about and to solve the problem, which might be not what you'd usually imagine. Simple things as maybe giving them a list by the phone, so before they pick the phone up to call the emergency services, a list of things that would make it clear as if it's appropriate for them to call the police.
Yeah. So are these people, you said you had these meetings, do the people go along to these meetings, or do you have the meetings and then one of you is nominated to go and deal with the individual, or do they get invited along to these multi-agency meetings? They
do not get invited, it's just for professional agencies. Yeah. It's, as you said before, there's a lead on it. It might be the police, it might be social care, Lancashire Fire and Rescue, whoever it may be, will be the lead on the particular case, whichever's the most appropriate. But then we'd delegate actions out to whoever's it's appropriate to delegate them to deal with the issue, and like I say, hopefully get to they've been going for quite some time. They proved rather successful in reducing demand on not just the police but on all the other services as well. But the key for this is, and certainly the way forward, I strongly believe, as does Lancashire Constabulary, is for agencies all to work together. Gone are the days when the police would deal with things on their own, the ambulance service deals with things on their own, and we don't know what each other are doing. It makes so much more sense for us to speak to each other and come up with the solutions together. Yeah.
I guess historically, though, people have always picked up the phone to the police, haven't they, thinking that they can solve everything. That's been one of the main issues.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the way the police is run now, if somebody phones up, the call's logged by the communications room. Based on what they say is how the call's logged. It might be logged as antisocial behaviour, it might be logged as a crime, it might be a concern for safety, but we have to take action on this no matter what, even if it's someone calling who maybe have dementia and they may be making a claim which is patently untrue. We can't make that assumption that an officer has to go out and deal with it. So for issues like that, early action really earns its money. We could get this person properly diagnosed, perhaps get them the help they need. Maybe it'd be better for them to be in a care home, and then they wouldn't be using the time for emergency services. We could go out and help people that need it more.
Here's one of the worst that I ever had. It was Christmas Day, and the 999s rang, and it was a lady calling in to find out what temperature she should put the oven on to cook a turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. That is actually true.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's about 200. It might be less. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not a police matter, is it?
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Things like that, it might just be education. I mean, depending on I'm not suggesting it would be the case with that one. It might be somebody with mental health issues and it's just education on what's appropriate and what isn't. But some people do that kind of thing and it's purely a waste of police time. And it might be appropriate if someone was to just make something up or call the police. Absolutely no need to give them a ticket for wasting police time.
I guess as a member of the public, which I am a member of the public nowadays, you have to think, well, how's this helping me out? It's not doing anything for me. But if you think about it sort of on a wider spectrum, if you're reducing demand on the police service for people that really need sort of taking down another route, then you're freeing up the call operators to take 999 and other non-emergency calls, and you're also freeing up police officers' times to deal with those people that really do need the service. I would say that's probably probably what the general outcome is meant to be.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, Lindsay. That's exactly the case. I'm sure we would all, we've not got the resources we'd like to have. Times are hard for everybody, but obviously we all, as people who pay our taxes, who need the emergency services, all like to think that if there's an emergency and we need the police, they'll be there. They won't be dealing with something such as advising somebody, with the correct temperature to cook the turkey.
Yeah, I know. I can absolutely see the value of it. How long have you been doing this role now then?
It's between 18 months, 2 years, I guess.
Really?
I think it's been going. Yeah. It's flown by. Yes, I do enjoy it.
Yeah. And what were you doing before you joined the early action team?
Before, like many of my colleagues who work in action, I used to work in neighbourhood policing,
right,
which is a similar skill set
yes,
that's required for early action. You deal with it's been described as one of our senior officers as neighbourhood policing phase 2,
right,
the early action project. But we're doing a lot of good, and we're working things out as we go along. And I would like to say to your listeners, if I may, that if they believe they know somebody who's vulnerable or at risk of crime, they can call the police on 101 and let us know about it.
Right.
It will likely be the early action team who deal with them.
So that would be logged and then sent through to yourself or somebody else in the team?
Indeed it would, yes.
Excellent. Well, it's been lovely talking to you this morning, Matthew, and long time no see. And I wish you all the very best with what you're doing at the moment, and also with any projects or anything you spearhead in the future.
Quite,
I'm going to use that word. I love it, spearhead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Lindsay. It was very nice speaking.